Confirming during your Geneijin pressure is very important, and the reason for this is because eventually your opponent is going to be scared of Zempo tension. They're going to be scared of you getting that free damage and that free meter. Or they may not. They may just choose to block forever. But the higher level of third strike that you get, the more defensive options your opponents will throw at you. They may try to interrupt you with buttons. They may try to guard jump away. They may try to option parry. There's all sorts of different things that they may do. So because they can do a lot of things to combat your decisions, you have to understand why and how those things are useful. So I have an entire video talking about the defensive options against Geneijin. And if you haven't watched that, I very highly suggest that you do. Because in order for you to understand why pressure is important, you have to understand all of the options that are available to your opponent. So as an example, when you activate, your opponent may just decide that they want to interrupt you in your attempts to walk forward to Zempo though, right? Because if you go for pressure and then you try to Zempo, this down jab may interrupt you, right? Now, why I say may is because there are technically situations where you can get frame perfect Zempos that will throw the startup of even Chun-Li's jab. But they are extremely hard to do. Now, it's important to note that if your opponent is just holding block and matching a button, you can keep your pressure so tight that that button will never come out because of how plus Yun is. So it's important that you're able to confirm inside of Geneijin, because if you leave this airtight pressure, whether it's to Zempo or to do something else, your opponent is going to be able to take an action. So the goal is to know that this action is going to be taken, and then incorporate things that will allow you to confirm your pressure into more damage. Right? So the idea here is that, I was able to delay one of my decisions so that I was able to get basically a full Geneijin combo, right? And this applies for jumping, this applies for all sorts of things. And this also means that, you can very easily put yourself in a situation where option parrying becomes viable, right? So when you're mixing things up and you're adding delays or you're doing frame traps, something like this, then you put yourself in a situation where your opponent has to respect a lot more things. Because as soon as you add delays, as soon as you add frame traps, etc., them trying to defend against your Geneijin without just blocking means that they put themselves at risk for taking much more damage than they might otherwise take just from allowing you to get that Zempo tension. If your opponent successfully interrupts or escapes your Geneijin pressure, when you're going for a Zempo, they jump out of the corner, or they're able to guess parry, or they're able to, as Yang do, crouching light punch into EX Rekka, or Ken or Dudley getting a super in a situation where you're doing a frame trap, but it's not really the best frame trap that you could be doing against those characters. Or it's just something that, they just feel comfortable taking that risk. It all depends on the player that you're playing against and the game state and all of that stuff. How much life, how much meter, what their actual preference is as far as, are they a risk-averse player? Do they prefer to take risks? All of this stuff matters. And the mind games change depending on what type of player you're playing against and what they're comfortable doing. So when you're playing against a low-level player, they might just mash buttons because they don't know better. And that's where confirming in Geneijin can be very helpful. But in the same regard, your opponent may be more calculated with their risks at a higher level, but they know they must take them, otherwise they're just going to give you free damage and meter in set play. Now, it may not be the best decision to go for these interrupts or these escapes all the time, or any sort of defense, but when they do work, they, pay off in spades. Especially in situations where Yun has to cross the screen. Use jumps, use dash punches, use shoulders, carry forward fierce, all of these things that are far away to get in. The less meter that you have when you're able to make the opponent guess, the better it is for your opponent. Because you can do a lot less with very little meter. You're more likely, or most players are more likely, to go for that Zempo in the late part of Geneijin. Very few players go for Zempo in the beginning. And it all depends on the type of player that the Yun is as well. Because there are different theories that players apply to their Zempo, where some people prefer to heavily mix up Zempo, whereas others prefer to use that fear of Zempo to attempt to get more damage from a confirm or a universal overhead or something. So the most basic mind game example is off of forward fierce. And the reason for this is because forward fierce is actually +6. This means that any action that you take afterward would be technically considered a frame trap if you have any sort of delay. So, your opponent has to worry about you doing walk forward Zempo, right? Your opponent also has to worry about you doing a button to catch their jump, or a low button. So they have to worry about highs, they have to worry about lows, they have to worry about, gimmicky things like going for shoulder afterward, forward medium kick. There's a lot of different things that could come. You could use this as a way to continue pressure by getting that walk-up stand light kick, and then going for like sweep into walk-up Zempo, or, whatever else. But this only is a mind game if your opponent knows the frame data, or the risk-reward behind going for things. If your opponent doesn't know that this is +6, and they decide that they want to press something, that's when your frame traps or your confirmations become very important. But if they don't, at worst, you're just putting in a situation where you're able to get into other pressure situations, where that allows you to go for that Zempo, or to go for that other situation where you're attempting to hit your opponent. But, if your opponent doesn't think that you're going to walk forward for the Zempo, then they're not going to jump, or they're not going to press that button, which makes the frame traps that you're going for after this forward fierce worthless. Or I shouldn't say worthless, but the goal of them will change based on what your opponent knows and what they don't know. It's a knowledge gap thing. So essentially what it comes down to is you want your opponent to fear your Zempo, and then you want your opponent to fear your confirms. Now, because both of them are at your disposal, when they fear your confirms, Zempo becomes available, or more readily available. And when they fear your Zempo, they're more likely to try to defend. So your goal is to find a balance between the two. And because there's all sorts of reasons for your opponent to be afraid, being able to confirm off of your choices is extremely important. The first way is with frame traps. So, you have these sort of frame traps, stuff off of forward fierce, stand light kick, stand medium punch. There's a lot of different things that you can use for frame traps, and I have an entire video talking about all of the moves in Geneijin, how they function with recovery canceling, and how they fit into the idea of frame traps and pressure for Geneijin. So I do suggest that you watch that. However, the basic concept is very simple. In that after the forward fierce here, even though I'm technically plus, it's a frame trap. Just like Ken doing close standing medium punch into a crouching medium punch, he's +5 off of the close standing medium punch. So when he presses that crouching medium punch, if you try to do anything, you try to jump away, you try to, press a button, you're going to end up getting hit with that crouching medium punch and confirmed into super. It's the same concept with all of Yun's moves in Geneijin, where you can force your opponent to make a decision, or hope that they're going to make a decision, and then do something else that, even if it does not garner a full combo, it puts you in a situation where you are still at advantage. So when your opponent is blocking your pressure, there's other ways that you can, get damage in. You can recovery cancel this into something that allows you to go right back into normal pressure, which allows you to threaten with Zempo again. Or, if they just don't respect your ability to, frame trap or whatever, you can go right for that walk-up Zempo straight from the forward fierce into the recovery cancel. So, understanding what all of your options are and how you can go into one another, using frame traps to go into normal pressure, which goes into delays and other things, that is how you really mix up your opponent and make them extremely uncomfortable. So the next way is understanding the difference between recovery canceling a move and the difference between not recovery canceling a move. So the best example of this is standing light kick. Standing light kick, when you don't recovery cancel, puts you outside of, Ken's foot, right? Whereas if you do crouching light kick, your foot still covers his foot. So when you're doing this, you actually have to do crouching light kick to get to the same spacing that you would have been at for one standing light kick, if you don't recovery cancel the stand light kick. However, if you recovery cancel the stand light kick, you're literally right in Ken's face. So you can go right for other pressure, or you can go right for a Zempo. Now this particular move, as an example, is +9. So your ability to move after it is a lot easier than off of like a crouching light kick. As far as how fast you can do it, right? By comparison. You get to walk 5 frames faster. So this opens up different opportunities. And this also means that your opponent can jump faster. So this is where other things come into play, like close standing medium kick. So when your opponent's trying to mash buttons, that close standing medium kick could hit their button attempt, right? Could hit the startup of them pressing a button. So understanding the space and how recovery cancels work matter a lot. Because if you just let yourself get pushed out of range and your opponent likes to mash buttons, you're out of range of crouching jab until it's like, the third crouching jab that Ken has done, because of how your idle animation works as yet. So if you, just hold down back, you can very easily put yourself in a situation where any of your next decisions will interrupt what your opponent wants to do. So not only is it a frame trap, but it's a distance thing. The distance that you get pushed away dictates what your next move can and cannot be. So higher level mind games consist of using particular recovery cancels or letting your move actually finish its recovery to get to a certain distance to make a defense of your opponent better or worse, or to allow for frame traps. So the next thing is delays, and using the non-recovery canceled version of moves to put yourself far enough away from your opponent that requires you to move forward enough to make it so that they feel like they can jump away. So as an example, when you're doing something like this, if I do crouching short, standing fierce, then my opponent is very easily going to be able to jump away after the standing fierce if I'm not able to walk forward after it and make another decision. Now, if you delay your crouching light kick, basically turning a very plus move, a move like crouching light kick that's plus 13, into a frame trap, then you're going to be able to confirm your next decision into, a combo, or confirm that your opponent blocked your next decision and go back into a way to get into pressure or whatever you may want to do. But one of the downsides of this is that if you look at the spacing that I had there, even though he was in block stun the entire time, I was basically out of Zempo range from that micro step. So in order to get into range for that Zempo, I actually have to use other moves that have less pushback when they're recovery canceled. Something like crouching medium kick, or standing light kick. Those are very good options. But you actually have a lot of plus frames off of, far standing medium punch, and you can essentially keep him in block stun forever. So you can force your way in with stuff like this, but it's a little bit more risky than using something like standing light kick to allow yourself to walk forward a little bit quicker, right? So this is one way that distance can screw you over, in that you have to move forward too much to get your Zempo. But this is ideally what you want to be doing, because you being far enough away means that your next decision, because of that walk forward, is going to also be delayed and can catch their decision. Whether it's to mash a button or to try to throw you, depending on how far away you are, you're less at risk of being thrown than, if you're right in your opponent's face and they just happen to guess correctly as to what your next decision is. As far as delaying that standing light kick into a walk forward standing light kick, as opposed to doing the standing light kick into a walk forward Zempo. So, although it's ideal to be right in your opponent's face in a situation where you can be using other moves as frame traps, like close standing medium punch or close standing light kick, when you are pushed far enough away, it's not the worst thing in the world that you may not get right into range, because of that fact that you can use that knowledge that your opponent now has that you must walk forward to get that chance at hitting them out of a way of getting out of that situation. So what do I mean by cadence? As you can see, the first two hits didn't combo into the next four, but the next four hits comboed together. You need very specific timing to continue to combo your moves. Now, as you see here, I didn't properly recovery cancel this combo, so it forced me to use far standing medium punch, which, because I didn't know that that was going to happen, I missed a crouching light kick, because you actually have to recovery cancel the far standing medium punch into the crouching light kick to get it to work in a lot of situations. But you can absolutely keep that cadence and keep that combo going for the close standing medium punch crouching light kick, like I just showed here. Trying to confirm with crouching light kick into a crouching light kick, if you don't know that you're going to hit, or don't hit a button at a timing that you know it will hit if that delayed move does hit to give you more time to continue. See? I was able to see that that second hit happened, and then recovery canceled that second hit. So that's able to allow you to continue your pressure and continue your confirm. The idea that you can confirm off of a single crouching leg kick is incredibly infeasible, because outside of situations where you are able to see it and then press another crouching leg kick immediately with no recovery cancel, which is very spacing specific, is incredibly hard. The only other thing that you might be able to confirm into is crouching medium kick, because crouching medium punch doesn't work, and crouching or far standing medium punch requires very specific spacing and positioning. So off of this, I actually have to take that step forward or that recovery cancel to get that far standing medium punch. And this is why during pressure, when some people go for the, short medium punch thing, the medium punch will whiff, because they have not already committed to that from their decision. So one of the ways that people confirm is with crouching leg kick into far fierce. Now you can do a cadence for your micro step forward crouch leg kick, but it has to be a little bit more delayed than normal in order to get the pushback that you would need, because otherwise you'll get this, in which case you'd get close standing heavy punch. So the easiest way to stop this is by adding either a crouching leg kick immediately after one another, and then a slight delayed fierce, or doing a crouching leg kick and then immediately knowing that that hits, and then comboing into a crouching leg kick without recovery canceling. So basically, if you do crouching short, and you don't recovery cancel that first crouching short, you know that you're going to hit. So basically what I'm saying is that it is incredibly important to couple your decisions by knowing that by going for this one thing, I can go for this, or this is my next option, etc. So when you are going for your pressure, and you are adding that very small delay so that you can get that frame trap, so to speak, you need to be able to go right into your normal pressure string cadence, because the idea is that you want to be close enough to your opponent that you can either go for that Zempo, or you want to be able to combo off of that original delayed move. So this is why when you're doing other confirms like this or like this, your opponent is going to be put into a situation where you have to make another decision after this. And something like this is very easy to confirm. Do they get launched or don't they? Right? But it's a little bit harder when you do something like crouching medium kick Kara Fierce, because you have to commit to another decision. But because you have to commit to another decision, you have to know that you can confirm off of that next decision, or you have to hard commit to that decision that's going to lead to that Zempo, right? So if we go back to the opponent always blocking, you can commit to that walk forward after the, Kara Fierce. Or you can commit to the walk forward standing leg kick. Or the walk forward crouching leg kick. Or you can commit to another one as a confirmation tool. Or this. Right? There's all sorts of ways that you can go from there. And that's where the depth of the ability to confirm and the depth of Geneijin's options come into play. Because you're able to force your opponent into that frame trap just from that one thing. Or you're able to, go right for another frame trap off of it. Or you're able to put yourself in a situation that allows you to get that Zempo. But you have to hard commit to your next decision. Right? Because as you can see here, if I want to commit to that walk forward crouching light kick, I can see the hit of the far standing heavy punch, and I can see the hit of the crouching light kick when I walk forward to go for like a forward fierce. So getting something like far standing heavy punch into walking crouching light kick, it may work as a frame trap, but it also works as a combo. But it's incredibly hard because of how spacing specific something like that is. So unless you have a setup for it, going for it is not always the best idea. It would be better to go for, anything crouching medium kick wise, because crouching medium kick is the same startup as crouching light kick, but it reaches further. And crouching medium kick is also less negative than crouching light kick, so you can make your way forward a little bit sooner. There are ways to make this work, though. Like, there's one that Ushi does that is like this, where he intentionally goes for the far standing heavy punch and then recovery cancels into the walk forward crouching light kick, knowing that because the recovery canceled forward fierce puts him at perfect range for that it's a viable option. So this gives him a three-way hit confirm, where he can confirm off of this, and then he can confirm that this hits, and because he's hard committed to the crouching light kick, basically it is a secondary hit in that confirmation that allows him to go into that forward fierce. If the crouching light kick gets blocked, it just means that he can walk forward and Zempo. Right? Now, obviously, Ken is set to just mash down light punch, but in a situation like that, your opponent most likely is not going to be, mashing down light punch. But if they are mashing down light punch, you committing to that walk forward Zempo may not be the best thing in the world. But you don't have to go for that Zempo. You can go for a crouching light kick into, more pressure if you really wanted. Right? So, although your opponent has essentially one guess that they can make, it is really dangerous to make that guess and not just give you the Zempo. Because if they get hit, they're going to take a lot more damage than from giving you that Zempo, and you're going to get upwards of 60% of your meter back. So it's really one of those things where they have to be very confident that you are going to make that decision. Otherwise, if they block this, you're just going to hit them with this. Or you're going to walk up crouching light kick into like shoulder or something. And if they committed to like holding up back after, after they blocked the crouching light kick, that shoulder's going to hit them. So when you're coupling your decisions, you can actually just straight add delays and not do anything and hold your ground. You don't have to go into a frame trap. You don't have to force something. You can make your opponent show you their hand, how they want to, actually do something. Because when you add lots of delay, there's a chance that something like that'll happen, where you'll end up catching them as they're trying to make that decision when they realize that they're being given that space to make it. So it's sort of like that next layer of Yomi. Yakun does, you know, walkbacks, shimmies, all sorts of things inside of Geneijin. And it all comes off of those delays or those strings that specifically position him to a point where he can, you know, make a hard read on his opponent. And it's very common for, you know, someone like Ushi to do that. But also it's extremely common for Ushi to just add a very slight delay and just go to another move that has a lot less pushback so that he can force that, am I going to Zempo you, or are you going to jump and get hit by my next button? Well, I've already gone over frame traps and stuff. Here are some of the more common situations in which you'll see Yuns try to add these delays and frame traps and stuff. So the first way is by normal pressure, and then you delay once, and then you go immediately into normal pressure again, either starting from low or high. This is normally done by that, you know, walk forward delay, or with a delay where you stand still, either going for another crouching light kick into, you know, far fierce, or going for a far crouching light kick into something like this, where either you're going to frame trap your opponent, or you're going to confirm off of the crouching light kick into crouching medium kick, and then you get shoulder, or, you know, you can do crouching medium kick into Dekai or something, depending on your position on the screen. So when your opponent is in the corner, obviously you have the crouching medium kick forward fierce, you know, or other pressure that you would normally do after that, because of the built-in frame traps. Another common situation is you do multiple hits, and then you delay before you walk forward to do another hit. So it's sort of combining a delay with that walk forward, because your goal here is to position yourself that you are just outside of range, where if you walk forward, most characters are not going to be immediately in throw range. So this is something you have to be cognizant of against characters with larger throw ranges like Urian or Hugo. So now you'll see stuff like this, where they'll go from normal pressure into an extra close standing medium punch because it's only a +4. And because it's only +4, they can very easily frame trap after this. So they can pressure and get in extremely easily for Zempo stuff, right? Or they can go for all sorts of confirms off of different situations. And because you can recovery cancel this, you can just basically walk forward, poking your opponent with this button, and sort of forcing them into a situation where they're going to eventually, you know, try to press something, whether it's throw or jump or whatever. So when you're going into pressure and you're going into that normal cadence again, you're very likely to hit your opponent if they're trying to defend that way. And if not, then, you know, you are in that situation where you can very easily get that Zempo tension. Now, it should go without saying that you can go from a high pressure string or a low pressure string off of either, you know, close standing light kick, close standing medium punch, you know, whatever it is that you're trying to do. Because having variance in your decisions means that your opponent isn't going to very easily be able to read what you're doing. They're not going to know if you're going to go low, high, Zempo, whatever. Because the last thing you want is to have a particular set of moves that you do where, like, if you always do this and a crouching leg kick, they're going to know that they can down parry and throw you, right? But if you add variation in, going high and low and the buttons that you're pressing to stay close, then your opponent is at much more of a risk when they actually do take a risk. Essentially, don't create bad habits for yourself, especially when practicing this stuff. The other situation I already have gone over is this situation, where you are able to get a far standing heavy punch. So either a far crouching medium kick into it, or a far crouching light kick into it. So there's all sorts of ways that you can go about, getting in after this. And you can also use it as a way to walk forward to go right back into pressure at frame trap timing. So as long as you know exactly what you are trying to do, then you can get those confirms off of these situations. And this is why, coupling your decisions and knowing exactly what you want to do next, what your goal is for that Geneijin, helps when using moves that require you to be further away, like the Kai stuff or the far standing heavy punch. And then lastly, you have using the far space as a way of essentially not tricking your opponent that you can't make other decisions, but having them be a little bit more comfortable just sitting where they are because of how far away you are. Alternatively, they're going to try to jump away, right? And depending on the character, they may try to, EX Fireball from Ken. Or they may try to contest. So, doing shoulders to get under fireballs at certain ranges may be a good idea. But when you understand how recovery cancels work, being at a very far away spacing isn't always a bad thing, at least in the first half of your Geneijin. As the Geneijin, ticks down, the further you are away, the worse it is because your opponent has less to fear. This is going to be the installation of the recordings for the Grouflon Training Mode LUA. So basically, you need the Grouflon Training LUA, which is available in my Grouflon LUA Training Mode guide. It will also be provided in the link below, as well as the Xpadder 2015 freeware version. So you're going to download both of these things by going to this link, going to code, going to download the zip, going to open the zip file, go to the master, take all of this information, and then you're going to put it inside of your Fightcade folder in the proper location. So inside of documents, or libraries, documents, Fightcade, emulator, FB Neo, and then you're going to copy and paste this stuff into here. After you do that, you're going to go to this MediaFire link, and then you're going to download the file that I have uploaded for Geneijin Confirms, as seen here. And then you're going to take all of this, and you're going to put it in a special place. And that is inside of the FB Neo folder. There's going to be a place for saved, and there's going to be a recordings folder. If there is not a recordings folder, you need to make one. And then you're going to copy paste all of these into here. Okay. After that, you're going to go into Fightcade. You're going to go to Game, LUA script. You're going to open the training mode LUA that you downloaded from the Grouflon thing. The LUA goes in the main emulator for FB Neo folder, just like everything else that I talked about. You're going to run it. After that, you're going to hit start. And then you're going to go to recording settings. You're going to pick a slot that you want to import to. So we're going to clear this slot here. Then we're going to load from file. And then, as you can see here, it will allow me to scroll through all of the different things that I have. So we'll add Geneijin A, we will load this, and then we will try to confirm. So A is the automatic block forever, and then there is quite a bit of other decisions that their opponent can make. So I have 24 different things that you can use to confirm. So after that, you're going to need to map some inputs. You're going to go into this, you're going to change player 1 coin into another button. I have mine set to 6. And then you're going to need to scroll down until you see load state and save state. I have my load state as F2 and my save state as F1. After that, you're going to activate Geneijin and then immediately hit your save state button so that you pause it right in the middle of the activation. After that, you're going to want to pause or whatever, and then go to the Xpadder website, download the latest version here, and then install it. After that, you will come up to a page like this, and then you will want to click New. After that, you'll click on Buttons, and then you'll have the select button that used to be Coin for you, and you'll press that. After that, you'll click on the button, and then in the bottom right-hand corner it will say Advanced. You'll click on Advanced, and then click on Assignments. You'll use the Load State button that you chose, mine is F2, and then you will use this blue Add Pause button, and then you will go in and press your Coin button for player 1, mine is 6. After that, you'll exit these things, you'll put this in your down button, hit so it goes in your tray, you'll load up your Fightcade, and then you'll press your button. And now it will load your state and give you the exact sort of situation that you need to be practicing, where you've activated and now you are going into your pressure. So when you want to actually practice, you're going to want to go into recording settings, and then you're going to want to go down to replay mode. Now you'll scroll over until it says repeat random, so that every time that you do this, it'll choose something different. Very simple. And then as long as you have all of your slots filled out, it'll choose one of the 8 things, and you can add weighting. So if you want the opponent to block more often, you could make it a higher weighting than something else. If you want them to try to contest in a certain way, you can look at the list of stuff that I have here, which is, A always blocks, B is guard jump, C is crouch, but randomly will no block. This will block and then mash light punch, block and then hold up back afterward, etc., etc. There's a lot of different options. So pick and choose and then randomize between them. You're always going to want to keep the block 1 guaranteed, and anything else that you want to throw in there as a randomization is completely up to you.